My name's Liam. Most days you'll find me covered in a fine layer of sawdust, the scent of cedar or walnut clinging to my clothes. I run Thorn Crafted, my own custom furniture and woodworking business here in Austin, Texas. Started it from scratch about 8 years back, and just me, a rented corner and a dusty warehouse and a pile of salvaged lumber. Now we've got a proper workshop, a couple of talented apprentices, and a waiting list that keeps me busier than I probably should be. I build things that last. Solid wood tables meant to gather families, chairs designed to hold stories, cabinets crafted in with joints that'll outlive us all. There's an honesty in wood, a truth in working it with your hands, that resonates deep in my bones. That same deep resonance used to apply to Sophia, my wife. 4 years married, nearly 10 years together total. She's brilliant, ambitious, an architect with a sharp eye and a fiercer determination. Watching her finally achieve the success she dreamed of, landing a huge, career-defining project lead at her prestigious firm just last month, filled me with a pride so immense it felt like my own accomplishment, which, in a way, it was. That's why we bought the house. A beautifully renovated mid-century modern tucked away in Travis Heights, with walls of glass overlooking a greenbelt, clean lines, and just enough space for us and her potential home studio. It stretched us thin, thinner than I was comfortable with, especially with my own business needing capital for a new CNC machine I'd been eyeing. But Sophia fell in love with it the moment she saw it. "This is it, Liam," she'd breathed, her eyes shining. "This is the kind of space that inspires great work. This is us." So, I made it happen. I drained most of my business savings for the down payment, took out a small, uncomfortable loan against my workshop equipment, even spent 3 solid weeks before we moved in doing custom built-ins myself, bookshelves in the living room, floating shelves in the kitchen, a sleek walnut desk for her new home office space. My hands, usually crafting furniture for clients, were now sanding, staining, installing, pouring my own craft into the shell that would hold our future. It was our house, yes, but the financial weight, the sweat equity, most of it was mine. I told myself it didn't matter. It was an investment in her happiness, in the life we were finally ready to live, now that her grueling architecture studies, 6 years of undergrad and master's combined, were behind her and her career was taking off. And tonight was the celebration. A double-header, housewarming and promotion party. Sophia wanted to make a splash, invite not just our friends and family, but her firm's partners, key clients, the whole architectural scene she was now firmly a part of. "It's important for visibility, Liam," she'd explained. "So I organized it. Found the caterers specializing in trendy small bites she liked, hired a local jazz trio, ordered cases of decent champagne, because apparently my craft beer wasn't gala appropriate, even supervised the stringing of elegant fairy lights across the back deck overlooking the canyon. The cost was making my eyes water, adding another layer of financial pressure I tried not to think about, but seeing Sophia's excited energy as she planned her outfit made it feel worth it. This was her night to shine. As I straightened a stack of artisanal cheese platters the caterer had just delivered, my mind flickered back, as it often did lately, to the years it took to get here. 6 years. While Sophia was immersed in studio projects, surviving critiques, mastering complex software, I was working 18-hour days. My foreman job back then kept the lights on, but barely covered her tuition at UT Austin's demanding architecture school. The extra money came from weekend side gigs, renovations, deck building, anything that paid cash, and from sacrifices. I remembered selling my restored '72 Triumph Bonneville motorcycle, my one real indulgence, the machine I'd lovingly rebuilt bolt by bolt to cover her final year's tuition when scholarship funding unexpectedly fell through. "It's just metal, babe," I'd told her then too, echoing the lie I'd told myself years before when pawning something else for her dream felt like the only option. Our future is what matters. I remembered the family reunions I missed back in East Texas because I couldn't afford the gas or the time off from a crucial side job that coincided with her needing funds for a ridiculously expensive 3D printer. I remembered eating countless dinners alone, microwave meals wolfed down standing at the kitchen counter after a grueling day, while she was out late with study groups or at firm networking events I wasn't invited to because I wouldn't know anyone or wouldn't be comfortable. Lately, those study groups and networking events seemed to happen more often. Since her promotion, she glowed with a new kind of confidence, which was great, but sometimes it felt like she was orbiting a different star. Her talk was full of firm politics, client schmoozing, and the brilliance of Damian Rivera, the senior partner who championed her project. She'd occasionally make comments, maybe unintentionally cutting, about how my hands were always rough with sawdust or how the smell of wood stain clung to my clothes, usually followed by a quick, affectionate squeeze that didn't quite erase the sting. I told myself it was just the stress of her new role, the demands of her field. I told myself the distance I sometimes felt creeping in was just temporary and necessary phase as she established herself in this new, high-powered world. Things would settle down after tonight, after this big celebration. We'd finally have our house, her career soaring, my business stable. We could finally breathe, finally start living the life we'd both sacrificed so much for. My unwavering trust in her and us was the bedrock I stood on. That trust was why the gift hidden carefully in my sock drawer felt so right, so important. It had taken me months of saving, selling a few smaller furniture pieces I'd made on spec to afford it. A necklace. Not just any necklace, but a stunning, architecturally inspired piece by a renowned Scandinavian designer she admired. Clean lines, brushed white gold, with a single ethically sourced deep blue sapphire suspended like a drop of pure potential. It cost more than I wanted to admit, even to myself, a small fortune for a guy who worked with wood. But it was perfect for her. Elegant, modern, unique. A symbol of the future I saw for us. The one I'd worked so damn hard to help build. I pictured her face when she opened the sleek, minimalist box later tonight, after the guests left, her eyes lighting up with genuine surprise and joy. That image, that anticipated moment, was the fuel getting me through these last hectic hours of party prep. The jazz trio started tuning up on the back deck. Caterers buzzed efficiently. The house looked incredible, filled with flowers and low lighting, the Austin skyline beginning to glitter through the floor-to-ceiling windows as dusk settled. Sophia was upstairs, getting ready. I straightened my own simple linen shirt, the closest thing to party wear I owned, and took a final look around. Exhausted? Yes. Stressed about the cost? Definitely. But overwhelmingly, I felt proud. Proud of her, proud of this house, proud of us for making it this far. Tonight was the culmination. Tonight, everything felt possible. By 9 o'clock, the party was in full swing. Our new house, the one I'd poured savings and sweat into, pulsed with energy. Music from the jazz trio I'd hired spilled out into the deck, mingling with laughter and the clinking of glasses. 60 people, friends, my family, who'd driven down from East Texas looking slightly overwhelmed, Sophia's parents beaming with pride, and, crucially, a significant contingent from her high-powered architecture firm, including the partners and her mentor, Damian Rivera, filled the space. They admired the clean lines, the view, the custom bookshelves I had built. Sophia moved through the crowd like a queen holding court, radiant in the deep emerald dress we'd picked out together, accepting compliments on both her recent promotion and the beautiful home. I played my part, the proud, supportive husband. I refilled wine glasses, made sure the caterers kept the artisanal flatbreads coming, laughed at jokes, deflected questions about my own woodworking business with vague politeness. Oh, keeping busy, you know. Part of me felt a surge of pride watching Sophia command the room, seeing her professional world embrace her. But another smaller part felt peripheral, like I was the stage manager ensuring the star shone brightly, essential but ultimately backstage. I pushed the feeling down. This is her night. It's about her. Around 10, Sophia signaled the band to quiet down and step towards the center of the living room, tapping a champagne flute for attention. A hush fell over the crowd. Here it comes, I thought, my chest tightening with anticipation. The thank yous. Maybe a sweet word about us, our journey, this house. I caught her eye across the room and gave her what I hoped was an encouraging, loving smile. Wow, she began, her voice warm and confident, projecting easily. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Seeing all of you here celebrating this incredible milestone in our beautiful new home, it means the world, she beamed, taking a sip of champagne, landing the lead on the Nexus Tower project. It's a dream come true. And this house, she gestured around, is the perfect place to recharge for the challenges ahead. Okay, good start, I thought. Our house. But I absolutely couldn't have reached this point alone, she continued, her gaze sweeping the room before settling lingeringly on Damian Rivera, who stood near the fireplace looking suave and proprietary. There's one person whose guidance, belief, and relentless pushing have been my absolute guiding light through the pressures of the last few years. Someone whose vision inspires me every single day. My smile started to feel stiff. Guiding light? Damien, Sophia said, raising her glass directly towards him. Damien inclined his head, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. Your mentorship has been invaluable. You saw potential in me when others didn't. You challenged me. You opened doors. I honestly wouldn't be leading this project, wouldn't be standing here as senior associate tonight without your unwavering support and brilliance. You're not just a boss or a mentor. You're a true partner in navigating this demanding field. To Damien. A chorus of, "To Damien!" echoed through the room as people raised their glasses. I lifted mine automatically, the champagne feeling sour in my mouth. I glanced around. A few of my friends looked confused, maybe even uncomfortable. Sophia's parents were clapping enthusiastically. Her colleagues nodded in agreement. It wasn't just a thank you, it was a tribute, an effusive, glowing tribute that positioned him as the central figure in her success. Where was my mention? 6 years of support in the house I largely paid for, this party I organized. Surely that warranted more than being lumped in with the general thanks. My stomach churned with a growing unease, a cold dread seeping into the edges of my pride. She'll thank me next, I told myself desperately. She's just saving the personal apart for last. She took another sip, basking in the applause for Damien. Then her eyes found mine again across the room, and she smirked, a tiny, almost imperceptible lift at the corner of her mouth, but filled with something knowing, mischievous, cruel. And of course, she said, her voice taking on a playful, theatrical tone, turning towards me now as a few guests chuckled, anticipating a sweet, husbandly acknowledgement. I couldn't forget my dear Liam, always holding down the fort while I chased blueprints. More polite laughter. My face felt hot. In fact, she continued, setting down her flute and picking up a small, chic gift bag from a nearby table, a brand I recognized as costing a small fortune. Since tonight is technically my birthday celebration, too, amidst all the housewarming and promotion and excitement, I actually got a little something for you, honey. She walked towards me, holding out the bag, her eyes sparkling with that strange, unreadable amusement. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Aw, how sweet. She got him a gift? I felt trapped, every eye in the room suddenly on me, waiting for my reaction to her quirky, unexpected gesture. My hands felt clumsy as I took the bag. It was surprisingly light. Go on, open it! She urged, gesturing towards Damien and a few of her senior colleagues who were watching with keen interest. My fingers fumbled with the tissue paper inside. What could this be? Cufflinks? A tie clip? Something small, symbolic? I pulled out the contents. A folded black t-shirt. Very soft, clearly expensive cotton. I unfolded it, holding it up automatically. And there it was, printed across the chest in bold, stark white sans serif letters. DIVOR. CED. Time seemed to warp. The background chatter ceased. The jazz music seemed to fade out. All I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. All I could see was that single, brutal word, hanging there in the air between me and my wife, in front of 60 of our friends, family, and her important colleagues. Divorced. For a heart-stopping second, absolute silence reigned. Then someone near the front snorted, quickly stifling it. A woman gasped. A nervous, uncertain titter broke out near the bar, then quickly died. No one knew how to react. Was this a joke? Some incredibly edgy, bizarre, public inside joke. But Sophia's expression stopped that thought cold. She wasn't laughing nervously. She was grinning. A wide, triumphant, almost feral grin, her eyes fixed on my face, waiting, watching me absorb the public execution she had just orchestrated. This wasn't a joke. This was a performance. A declaration, delivered with maximum cruelty on the stage I had built for her. My hands started to shake, crumpling the soft fabric of the shirt. The heat rushed to my face, intense and suffocating. Humiliation, raw and absolute, washed over me. Every sacrifice, every dollar, every ounce of love and support I had poured into her, into us, into this house, this party, it all culminated in this moment. Me, standing here like a fool, holding a t-shirt that declared my marriage obsolete, while my wife beamed beside the man she'd publicly honored minutes before. I looked from the shirt to her smirking face, then glanced at Damien. He wasn't smirking, but his expression held a kind of cool, detached satisfaction. He knew. This wasn't a surprise to him. My throat burned. My vision blurred slightly, not with tears. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction, but with the sheer blinding force of the shock and betrayal. I could feel every eye in the room on me, waiting for me to scream, to yell, to break down, to play my part in her drama. But something else, something cold and hard, settled in my chest, displacing the initial shock, a deep tectonic shift. The ground I had stood on for 10 years had just crumbled beneath my feet. The future I had sacrificed everything for had just been declared null and void, by her, in front of everyone. Okay, message received. The cool Austin night air felt like a shock against my flushed face as I stepped out into the rooftop terrace, leaving the muffled sounds of the party, her party, behind me. I walked blindly towards the elevator, needing distance, needing air that didn't taste like champagne and betrayal. My chest felt tight, like a band was constricting around my ribs. Humiliation had burned hot under my skin. Divorced, handed to me like a party favor, in front of everyone. I made it maybe 20 steps across the pavement outside the venue's main entrance, heading towards where I thought I'd parked my truck when I stopped dead. The necklace. The image flashed sharp and clear in my mind. The small, elegant jeweler's box sitting on the cake table, right next to where I'd placed that damn t-shirt. Inside it, the white gold and sapphire pendant I'd poured months of careful savings into, the piece I'd imagined clasping around her neck later tonight in a quiet moment, a symbol of our future, left behind, abandoned in the wreckage she'd just created. A surge of cold, hard anger jolted through me, overriding the shock. Hell no. She didn't get to keep that. She didn't get to keep that symbol of genuine affection, of my sacrifice, to be maybe laughed about later with Damien, or tucked away like some inconvenient reminder. It was mine. My sentiment, my hard-earned money. It didn't belong in her triumphant, humiliating scene. My jaw clenched. Without a second thought, I spun on my heel and strode back towards the glittering entrance. The valet, seeing me return, started forward with a confused look. "Sir, you're—" But I pushed past the glass doors without breaking stride. The party noise hit me again, but the atmosphere had shifted. The upbeat jazz felt jarring now. The polite chatter was replaced by urgent whispers, knots of guests glancing towards the front, towards where Sophia, Damien, and her parents likely still stood. Heads turned as I marched back into the room, my work boots silent on the thick carpet this time, my expression grim. I saw Maria near the edge of the crowd, her eyes wide, shaking her head slightly as if warning me off. I ignored her. My focus was laser-sharp on the cake table. Sophia was indeed near the stage area, talking animatedly, almost frantically to her parents and a pale-faced Damien. She saw me coming. Her eyes widened further in disbelief, then narrowed in anger. "Liam, what are you doing?" she started, her voice sharp. I didn't answer. I didn't look at her. I walked straight to the cake table, reached out, snatched the jeweler's box containing the necklace, and shoved it deep into my jacket pocket. The weight felt solid, real, right? I didn't touch the t-shirt still lying there. Then just as quickly I turned and walked out again. This time the path cleared even faster. The whispers were louder, shocked. "He came back! Just for the box! Did you see her face?" I didn't care. I pushed through the doors for the final time. Outside, the valet looked utterly bewildered but had my keys ready. I didn't bother with the tip this time. I slid into the familiar cab of my truck, the smell of sawdust and leather a welcome dose of reality. I slammed the door, the sound echoing satisfyingly in the quiet street. The engine rumbled to life. As I pulled away, my phone sitting dark on the passenger seat where I'd tossed it earlier lit up. Sophia. I ignored it. It rang, sharp and insistent, filling the cab. Then silence. 10 seconds later, it lit up again. Sophia. I kept driving, heading across town towards Theo's place. Our apartment, my apartment now, I corrected myself fiercely, felt impossible. I needed neutral ground. Sophia. Ring. Silence. Sophia. Ring. Silence. It was relentless. What did she want? To yell, apologize, explain. It didn't matter. Nothing she could say would undo what she did, how she did it, in front of everyone. The cruelty of it felt calculated, designed to sever, to humiliate completely. Glancing down as I waited at a red light, I saw the missed call count climbing, 15, 20, 35. Each call felt like another attempt to pull me back into her orbit, her drama. I felt a surge of defiance. No more. I reached over, my hand steady now, and held down the power button until the screen went black. The silence that followed was absolute, profound. It felt like cutting the last frayed rope connecting me to the life I thought I had. An hour later, I pulled up outside Theo's duplex. The porch light was on. I killed the engine and just sat there for a minute in the dark cab, the silence pressing in. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness and a hollow ache where my future used to be. Theo opened the door on my first knock, wearing pajama pants and a rumpled t-shirt, clearly having been asleep. He took in my appearance. The slightly too formal clothes now rumpled the look on my face, and just sighed, stepping aside. "Figured you might end up here," he said gruffly. "Beer or bourbon?" "Bourbon," I managed, my voice sounding rusty. He poured 2 generous glasses while I sank onto his familiar lumpy couch. He handed me one and settled into his worn armchair. We sat in silence for a while, the only sound the ticking of the old clock on his mantelpiece. "She did it," I said finally, staring into the amber liquid. "Publicly. Handed me a divorced t-shirt at her own birthday party, the one I paid for." Theo let out a long, low whistle. "Jesus, Liam, seriously? A t-shirt?" He shook his head. "Man, that's a next level brutal." He took a long drink of his bourbon. "So I guess this means—" "Yeah," I confirmed. The word heavy but absolute. "It means it's over, done." He nodded slowly. "You don't come back from that, man. No way." He was right. There was no repairing this, no patching it up. It wasn't just a crack. It was a demolition. The foundation was gone. We didn't talk much more that night. Theo understood. He'd put on some old blues records, poured another bourbon, and just let the quiet be. Sometime before dawn, I crashed on the couch, falling into a heavy, dreamless void. I woke up stiff, sore, with a pounding headache, but also with a cold, hard clarity I hadn't felt before. The shock and hurt were still there, simmering beneath the surface, but overlaid now was a firm, unwavering resolve. This wasn't going to break me. She wasn't going to break me. It was time to end it. Cleanly. Decisively. That morning, using Theo's slightly sticky kitchen table as my desk, I looked up divorce lawyers. I didn't want drama or drawn-out battles. I wanted efficiency, fairness, and finality. I found a name mentioned on a local business forum, Clara Mendez. Known for being tough, pragmatic, no nonsense. Exactly what I needed. I called her office and booked the soonest available consultation. Taking that step, making that call, felt like grabbing the steering wheel of my own life again. Sophia had driven us into a ditch, but I sure as hell wasn't staying there with her. The days turned into weeks, then months. The legal machinery of divorce ground forward, handled efficiently by Clara Mendez. I focused on what I could control, my work, my body, my own damn mind. Thorncraft became my sanctuary and my obsession. I threw myself into the challenging library shelving commission, losing myself for hours in the precise calculations, the feel of sharp chisels shaving away excess wood, the smell of tongue oil finishing the gleaming walnut. There was an honesty in the craft, a direct relationship between effort and result, that felt profoundly soothing after the emotional chaos and deception of my marriage. The workshop hummed with activity, a tangible counterpoint to the emptiness Sophia had left behind. My apprentices, sensing my renewed focus, worked harder, too, and the quality of our output improved. We even landed a significant contract designing custom fixtures for a new boutique hotel downtown, a project I would have hesitated over months ago, worried about the time commitment, but now embraced wholeheartedly. The divorce itself finalized quietly. Sophia didn't contest the division of assets. According to Clara, she just wanted it over. Word reached me indirectly, through Theo, who'd heard it from a mutual acquaintance who still ran in Sophia's circles, that her life had become complicated after the party. Apparently, Damien Rivera hadn't appreciated the public spectacle or the subsequent awkward questions about his judgment. Their partnership, whatever it truly was, seemed to have dissolved quickly under the uncomfortable spotlight. There were also vague whispers about Sophia facing uncomfortable questions or a review at her architecture firm regarding the ethics of the whole situation. Hearing this news, secondhand, filtered through gossip, I felt surprisingly little. No vindictive pleasure, no lingering pity, just a distant acknowledgement, like reading about a company's stock falling in a city I no longer lived in. Her choices, her consequences. My energy belonged elsewhere now. The early morning runs became non-negotiable, my anchor in the shifting tides. Pounding the pavement along the quiet banks of Lady Bird Lake before dawn, watching the skies slowly lighten over the Austin skyline, became my daily ritual of reclaiming myself. 1 mile turned into 3, then 5. My body grew stronger, leaner, the physical exertion burning off the residual anger and anxiety, leaving behind a clean, sharp clarity. It wasn't just exercise, it was therapy, movement, progress. And then, unexpectedly, came the words. Maybe it was the running clearing my head, or maybe it was just the sheer pressure needing an outlet, but I started writing. Not with any plan, just grabbing a cheap notebook late at night after the workshop was quiet, letting the thoughts spill out. I wrote about the party, the t-shirt, the crushing weight of those 157 missed calls flashing on my phone screen. I wrote about the years of sacrifice, the blind trust, the slow dawning realization of being erased. It was raw, unfiltered, full of anger and pain. It wasn't pretty, but it felt necessary, like lancing a wound to let the poison out. One night, reading back over the messy scrawl, I found myself typing it up, cleaning up the sentences, trying to make sense of my own story. On a whim, feeling strangely detached, I created an anonymous blog and posted the first entry, calling it 157 Missed Calls. A stark reminder of that first night of silence, the moment the line was irrevocably cut. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but then a comment appeared. This hit home. Hard. Then another. Thank you for writing what I couldn't say. Slowly, unexpectedly, strangers started sharing their own stories of betrayal, of feeling erased, of finding the strength to walk away. Reading their words, realizing my specific pain resonated with a universal experience, chipped away at the isolation I'd felt. It wasn't a cure, but it was a connection, a quiet validation that grew with each new comment, each shared story. My focus began shifting subtly outward, away from just my own wreckage, and towards this shared human experience of rebuilding. Work, running, writing, they weren't just coping mechanisms anymore. They felt like acts of construction, building something new and solid where the old life used to be. A year evaporated in a haze of sawdust, sweat, and the steady rhythm of rebuilding. Not just furniture, but my life. The immediate raw agony following the party and the confrontation faded, replaced by a quiet determination that felt more solid, more me, than the desperate love I had clung to for so long. Thorn Crafted, my woodworking business, became my anchor and my engine. Freed from the constant financial drain of supporting Sophia's ambitions and the emotional tax of her drama, I poured everything back into my own craft. I hired another apprentice, a talented young woman named Maya with a keen eye for design. We invested in that new CNC machine I'd put off buying for years, allowing us to take on more complex, intricate commissions. We landed contracts with several high-end interior designers in Austin, drawn to the quality and integrity of our work. Thorn Crafted wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, building a reputation for artistry and reliability, values that felt deeply personal now. The divorce finalized about 8 months after the party. Clara Mendez handled it efficiently, just as promised. Sophia didn't contest the major points. The house sold quickly in Austin's hot market. We split the modest equity after debts were cleared, and that was that. Our legal ties were severed cleanly. There were no tearful phone calls, no dramatic last words, just paperwork signed and filed, closing the door on a decade of my life. I heard whispers about Sophia, of course, usually through Theo, who occasionally bumped into mutual acquaintances. The fallout from the gala had been real. Damian Rivera, the guiding light, had apparently extinguished his flame for her shortly after the public exposé, citing reputational concerns. Her position at the prestigious architecture firm became tenuous. While not fired outright, she was reportedly sidelined from major projects. Her brilliant future dimmed considerably. Last Theo heard, she was considering leaving Austin altogether, looking for a fresh start somewhere the story hadn't followed her so persistently. Hearing this, I felt nothing much. A distant sort of echo, maybe, like hearing about a storm passing through a town you used to live in. It wasn't my weather anymore. Her trajectory was hers to navigate. Mine was finally fully under my own control. My life settled into a new kind of normal. Work filled my days, challenging, satisfying work that left me physically tired but mentally energized. The early morning runs along Lady Bird Lake continued, now a cherished ritual of peace and clarity, not just an escape. I upgraded from the cramped rental above the pizza shop to a small, decent two-bedroom house with a garage. I converted it into a better home office and design space, closer to the main workshop. Friendships deepened. Theo, Maya, my small crew at the shop, other local artisans and small business owners. We shared beers after work, helped each other out with projects, talked shop, talked life. It wasn't the glittering world Sophia inhabited, but it felt authentic, grounded, real. The blog, 157 missed calls, continued sporadically. I wrote less frequently now, the raw urgency replaced by more reflective pieces about rebuilding, finding purpose after a betrayal, the quiet strength of resilience. The community there remained, a surprising source of connection, but no longer felt like the center of my healing. The healing was happening offline, in the grain of the wood I worked, in the miles I ran, in the easy laughter shared with friends. One afternoon, sorting through old mail that had been forwarded from my previous address, I found a thick envelope with handwriting I recognized instantly. Sophia. It had likely been sent months ago, perhaps around the time the divorce was finalized. My first impulse was to toss it, unread. What could she possibly say that mattered now? But a flicker of something. Curiosity, a need for absolute closure, made me slit it open. It was, as I expected, an apology. Pages of it. Explanations, regrets, self-recriminations. She wrote about getting swept up in ambition, insecurity, the allure of Damien's world. She acknowledged the cruelty of the t-shirt, the calculated dismissal at the party. She wrote about missing the simple support I'd always provided, the bedrock she hadn't valued until it was gone. I broke something beautiful because I was too weak and foolish to appreciate it, she wrote near the end. I don't expect forgiveness, Liam. I just wanted you to know. I see it now. I read it through once. Calmly. The words that might have devastated or elated me a year ago now landed with a strange lack of impact. I recognized the pain in her writing, the likely sincerity of her regret now. But it felt distant, like reading about someone else's drama. Her seeing the truth now didn't change the truth of what she'd done then. It didn't restore the years, the sacrifices, the trust she had shattered. Her apology was for her, perhaps more than for me. And that was okay. I folded the letter, slid it into the back of a filing cabinet drawer alongside the divorce decree, and didn't think about it again. I didn't need her regret to validate my journey forward. The necklace, the beautiful, expensive symbol of a future that never was. I'd sold it shortly after the divorce was final. Not out of anger, but practicality. Its beauty felt tainted by the memory. I used the money as a down payment on the CNC machine for the workshop. Transforming a symbol of past betrayal into a tool for future creation felt like the right kind of alchemy. Tonight, sitting on the porch swing outside my little bungalow after a long day, nursing a cold beer brewed by a friend's local brewery down the street, the quiet felt different. It wasn't the heavy silence of loneliness I had felt after the party. It was the earned peace of contentment. The workshop was doing well. The apprentices were learning. My runs were getting longer. Life felt solid, grounded, mine. Sophia had called me disposable, someone who didn't fit her world. Maybe she was right. I didn't fit that world of hers, built on shaky foundations and convenient lies. I belonged here, in the world I was building with my own hands, defined by honest work, genuine connection, and the quiet strength of knowing exactly who I was, independent of anyone else's validation or betrayal. The past was a scar, a reminder of a painful lesson learned, but it no longer dictated the future. That future stretched out before me, full of sawdust, possibility, and the satisfying weight of work well done, and it was more than enough.